Oklahoma makes the move to the SEC, and boy, the SEC did not do them any favors when making the schedule. It's a brutal schedule for Oklahoma in year one. It's also crazy if you look at the difference in Oklahoma and Texas schedule, at least in the conference. But so before we get to the predictions, just some thoughts on this team. Jackson Arnold at quarterback. I'm not sold on him. I think he has potential to be good. It's hard to predict what he's going to do. We've seen such a small sample size, and he hasn't looked great at times when we have seen him play. So that's going to be a big key for them. They've got weapons at wide receiver. Also protecting him. The offensive line is going to be a bit of a question mark, and open up the run game. That's going to be really the difference in a really good season and an average season for Oklahoma. Really going to come down to that offensive line. The defense, though, is loaded. I mean, really no weaknesses there. They have a lot of talent, a lot of depth, a lot of experience. This, I think, will be right there with Georgia as probably the two best defenses in the SEC this year. So the defense is going to give them a chance in every game that they play. And the offense, again, has potential. So Oklahoma is definitely one of those boom or bust teams. They have the chance to be really, really good. But if the offensive line struggles and the offense doesn't really figure things out, they could lose a lot of games just because of how tough the schedule is. And here is that schedule. We're talking about Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, LSU. I mean, that's 7 tough games right there. Vegas has the over-under win total for them at 7.5, which I think is actually fair. I mean, again, with this schedule, if you change their schedule out with, say, Texas, that number is probably 8.5 or 9.5. But it's just a really, really tough schedule for Oklahoma. So let's start with the first game against Temple. Now, that's one that they should be able to win. I don't really see them having too much trouble there. So they get off to a 1-0 start. Then they play Houston on September 7th at home. Willie Fritz takes over there. And, he's a really good coach. And we saw what he was able to do at Tulane. How fast can he turn things around here at Houston? I'll tell you what, the talent is there. This is actually a pretty talented team. A lot of production coming back, so I don't think they're going to be bad. And so I think this is one you've got to watch out for. Houston maybe hangs around in this game, but the defense for Oklahoma, I think, will be the difference, and they'll win. But I don't think this is going to be a 20-30 point win. I think it's more like a 10 to 14 point win. But I do like the Sooners to get the W. Next, they play Tulane, ironically without Willie Fritz, so he's gone. And this is, I think, a program that's they're going to have to kind of start over a little bit. So I don't expect them to be anything like what we've seen. They could prove me wrong, but I think Oklahoma will roll in that game. And they get Tennessee on September 21st at home. It's going to be a tough one. Going to be their first SEC game against a very good team in Tennessee, a very good offense. Slowing down the Tennessee offense, especially this passing attack, is going to be a tough challenge. But, I think they can slow them down enough. And I think there are some holes in the Tennessee defense where I think Oklahoma's offense could have a big day. So I expect a pretty high scoring game. This is one that I had a hard time on, and I think I said this in the Tennessee video. When it comes down to these games that I really can't make my mind up on, I usually just go with the home team. So we're going to Oklahoma. I think the home field advantage is the difference. They beat Tennessee, and then they don't get the home field advantage. The next week they'll play at Auburn, which is a very tough place to play. This will be their first road game in the SEC. It's an Auburn team that's going to have a good run game, and then, what will the passing game look like with Peyton Thorne and these new receivers? I think they improve a lot. I think they've got a good offensive line, but I don't think they're going to be able to score a whole lot on Oklahoma. But on the flip side, I think the Auburn defense will be pretty good. I think their defensive line especially is going to have a big advantage over Oklahoma, and defenses usually play really, really well at home. So I think Auburn's defense will step up and play big in this game. Home field advantage for them. That's, to me, the difference. And I'm going to go with Auburn to get the upset here. So I've got Auburn beating Oklahoma and giving them their first loss of the season. Next game is against Texas. And back to the Auburn game, I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Defensive battle there, kind of the opposite of what they have the week before against Tennessee. But Texas, huge game. Two really good teams, a lot of talent on both rosters. A revenge game for Texas this year. This game is impossible to predict. You never know what you're going to get. I honestly thought that Texas really was the better team last year in that game and just had some missed opportunities, some big plays that Oklahoma made. I think it goes the other way this year. A shootout, an exciting game, one of the more exciting games probably of the season. but I'm going to go Texas. I think Texas wins this game, and then they'll play South Carolina the next week at home. South Carolina, a team that I don't think they're going to be very good, really on either side of the ball. I don't think they're going to have the type of offense that really challenges this Oklahoma defense, and Oklahoma can do enough on offense to I think win this game fairly comfortably. So I've got them beating South Carolina. Then the next week it's Ole Miss. Kind of the same story as the Tennessee game, going up against a really good offense, a good defensive line, just like Tennessee. Those are similar teams, but I think Ole Miss is just a step ahead of Tennessee. I think they're going to be a little better than the Vols. Plus, this game is in Oxford, so I think Ole Miss's defense will play well, and I just think this offense is going to be tough to stop. So I think they lose this one, but again, I think I've got them beating Tennessee, but losing to Ole Miss in two similar games that should have a lot of points. They beat Maine, then they'll play Missouri on November 9th on the road. This is going to be a tough game here. You're talking about an explosive offense for sure. Oklahoma, I think, it's almost like the same. We're on repeat here. It's kind of like the same story with Tennessee and Ole Miss. Now Missouri, really good offense, a lot of points in this game. The game is on the road. I'm going with Missouri, so it's a tough one to predict. That's another one that I was like Tennessee and Missouri were both games that I was, and even the Auburn game. These were all games that I was very, very back and forth on, and again, when I get in that situation, I'm usually just going to pick the home team. So I think that's going to be the story for Oklahoma this year. A lot of close games, a lot of games that could go either way. And if they can find a way to win those games, again, could be a different season. But I think they're going to have some losses here. Alabama the next week on November 23rd. They actually get a bye week before this game, which will be big. Alabama getting ready for the Iron Bowl the next week. Really, really good spot to play the Crimson Tide if you're Oklahoma. And, Alabama, I still question their passing game with Jalen Milroe. And if you're one-dimensional, you're not going to be able to challenge Oklahoma, in my opinion, or not going to be able to score a lot of points. So, I think Alabama will get some in this game, but I think Oklahoma's defense will come up some big stops, and they're playing at home, so that'll be big as well. I'm going with the Sooners to beat Alabama. So a big win there, and then they close things out with LSU on the road. I mean, it's kind of a lot of these teams in the SEC are very similar. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, all teams that are going to be able to throw the football and be really explosive offensively. All of these teams maybe have some question marks on defense, so it's more of the same here. That's a tough place to play, though. I think it's the toughest place to play probably in all of college football there at LSU. So I think LSU wins this one pretty close. And again, I think a lot of these games will be close. Auburn, Texas, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, LSU, I think all those games are going to be close. I've got them winning only 2 of those games, going 2-5 in those games. Could very easily be 3-4 or even 4-3. So yeah, I could see this team getting to 8-4, 9-3, but again, the offensive line does concern me a little bit, and I'm going to go with 7-5 because of how tough this schedule is. And on the flip side, they could lose to Tennessee and Alabama. So, it could even be a 6-6 type year for Oklahoma. Again, I think the schedule is the main reason why I'm at 7-5, because I think this will be a good team. But even good teams sometimes have a hard time overcoming schedules like this. Your thoughts on Oklahoma? Give me your predictions on this team down in the comments below.